Those that have sat through the study that we've done on the tabernacle always focus that the tabernacle's purpose was to show us how to worship Father Yahweh. Yes. That's its purpose. And how they worship him in heaven is how we worship him on earth. There's only one way to worship Father Yahweh. And to instruct us on how to do that, he gave us the tabernacle. So when we look at the physical structure of the tabernacle, we have a courtyard, and we have a tent in the middle of the courtyard. And the tent is divided into two parts, a holy place and a most holy place. Get the baby. He's in the kitchen, unsupervised. So then we see the people of Yahweh encamped round about the tabernacle. So we see the Levites, who was Aaron and his sons, Merariah, Gershon, and Kohath. They got the first spots, around the tabernacle. They were divided up in their respective families, and they got the closest to the tabernacle. Then the rest of the tribes were encamped around the tabernacle. So when we look at the tabernacle, most people just think of the tent, but it's not just the tent. It was the courtyard. So I want us to get the visual of then all the tribes around which was the camp. Now when we get this, what I want you to note is the closer you got to Yahweh, the more that was required of you. So keep that in mind. Then we have those that are without the camp. So we had the tent divided in its two parts, the courtyard, the people of Yahweh around the tabernacle, which was the camp, and then you had outside the camp. Now, outside the camp was everybody else. But it also was those who broke the law and were evicted were outside the camp. And the unclean, like the lepers, had to go outside the camp. So outside the camp was everything not of Yahweh. The unclean, the rest of the world, and those that got kicked out of the camp. They were all outside the camp. So when we look at in the camp are the people of Yahweh. Now that's by birth or engrafted. Because remember, it was a mixed multitude that came up out of Egypt. So each people had people who attached themselves to particular tribes. And so they might not have been a Benjamite by birth, but that was, so it was the people of Yahweh that was in the camp. Now, in the courtyard, we could see priest and the people. But as a person going into the courtyard, you didn't come empty-handed. You went there for a purpose. Now, when I listen to tabernacle lessons from mainstream Christian people, their focus is like sin offering and that, but there was you could go there for a good time. You could go for a peace offering, Thanksgiving offering. You could go, it wasn't just like, oh, I screwed up, let me go get my goat and go to the tabernacle. You could be thankful that Yahweh did something for you, and you'd go get your lamb and go. So it wasn't just because you did something wrong that you'd end up here. But in the courtyard, you could see the priest and people bringing an offering. And, of course, enter into his gates with thanksgiving and into his courts with praise. You have to remember, David's making these statements, but you have to remember what's David focusing on. He's focusing on the tabernacle. You come into his gates with thanksgiving, and you enter into his courts with praise. Because if it was a sin offering, you know you were getting it atoned for. If it was a thanksgiving offering, it was being accepted. If it was a peace offering, Yahweh was giving peace. So you entered into this gate knowing that whatever the issue was, it was going to be resolution. So you entered with thanksgiving and into his gates, into his courts with praise. Then there would be the holy place. Now in the holy place only went the priest. See, the courtyard was people could be there as well. People from the camp, not just any people, people from the camp. And so when in the holy place you had the table of showbread, you had the menorah, and you had the altar of incense. So when the priests would go in there, they were functioning. You know, they had to keep the wicks trimmed, the lampstand filled with oil. They had to keep incense on the altar, keeping that fire burning. They had to take care of the showbread, fresh showbread, the oil and the incenses that went with the showbread. So there was stuff to do. Okay. Then you had the most holy place. Now in this place, the high priest only went, and him only once a year. So I want you to keep the visual of the tabernacle. We'll forget about outside the camp because we're not going to talk about them people today. We're going to talk about the camp and the tabernacle. Now, as you would come into the camp, it was always a whosoever will. So if you saw the mighty things of Yahweh and say, yeah, I like to be with them people, you could come and do that. And you could attach yourself to whatever tribe, and you'd be a part of the camp. So in that part of the camp, but you didn't just say, oh, I really like them people, I will attach myself to them. You had to follow their rules and their regulations and come under their law. And that's how you became a part of them. Now, if you were going to the tabernacle to bring an offering, to go to the place that you were permitted in the courtyard, then some other laws applied to you. So those laws didn't apply to you. They were there, but they didn't apply to you unless you were going to the courtyard. You know, whatever your business was, whether it was a Thanksgiving offering, a guilt offering, a sin offering, whatever it was, you had to know what you were supposed to bring. You had to know, you had to be clean, like, you know, you had to be. So laws that were on the book, so to speak, that maybe not applied to you while you were in the camp, but was you were going to the courtyard, now you had to come under those rules and bring your offering. Now, past that point, you and I don't get to go. Only the priests get to go. So they had to come under additional rule to go into the holy place. You know, they had to have a dress code and, certain other laws and rules they had to subject themselves to. So as you get closer to Yahweh, there's more required of you. See, there's more required. So even to go into the most holy place, to do that was even more required of you. First of all, you had to be a high priest, and you had to wear special clothes, and you had to do a special ceremony, and you had to do, so to get into this place, there was even more required of you. So my question is, where are you? There's no chairs in the tabernacle. The tabernacle was about business. It was about worshiping Father Yahweh. You don't do that sitting down chilling. We're a bunch of lazy folk. We want to sing our praises and sit down. I'm one of them. Sit down and chill. But in the tabernacle, there's no chairs. Now, it doesn't mean you had to stand the whole time. You could prostrate yourself, get down on your knees, or sit on the ground maybe. But there was no relaxing. That's not what you came there for. You came there to work unto Yahweh. You came there to get something from Yahweh if you were the lay person. So we're going to start, though. We're going to look at Matthew's chapter 27. And I thought it was interesting because Denise kind of made a statement. As I was putting this on paper this morning, I was like, all Christendom going to talk about when Yahshua was born. I'm not talking to you about when he died. Actually, that's what the Bible says I'm supposed to talk about. We're supposed to remember his death. So we're in Matthew's 27, and we're going to start at the 27th verse. Now, this is the chapter where we begin to see him going before Pilate and Herod and back to Pilate again. And, you know, the Pharisees and the Sadducees all want to kill him, and he's now going through that process, not because they're being successful, but because it's time. So then the governor's soldiers took Yahshua to the praetorium and gathered the whole company of soldiers around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and then twisted together a crown of thorns and set it on his head. They put a staff in his right hand and knelt in front of him and mocked him. "Hail, King of the Jews," they said. They spit on him and took the staff and struck him on the head again and again. After they had mocked him, they took off the robe and put on his own clothes on him, and they led him away to crucify him. As they were going out, they met a man from Cyrene named Simon, and they forced him to carry the cross. They came to a place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. There they offered Yahshua wine to drink mixed with gall, but after tasting it, he refused to drink it. When they had crucified him, they divided up his clothes by casting lots, and sitting down, they kept watch over him. There, above his head, they placed the writing charged against him: "This is Yahshua, King of the Jews." 2 robbers were crucified with him, one on his right, one on his left. Those who passed by hurled insults at him, shaking their heads and saying, "You who are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. Come down from the cross if you are the Son of God." In the same way, the chief priests, the teachers of the law, the elders mocked him. "He saved others," they said, "but he can't save himself. He's the King of Israel? Let him come down now from the cross, and we will believe in him. He trusts in Elohim. Let Elohim rescue him now if he wants him. For he said, 'I am the Son of Elohim.'" In the same way, the robbers who were crucified with him also heaped insults onto him. From the 6th hour until the 9th hour, darkness came over the land. About the 9th hour, Yahshua cried out in a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lama," excuse me, I can't even say that, which means, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" When some of those standing there heard this, they said, "He's calling Elijah." Immediately, one of them ran and got a sponge. He filled it with wine vinegar, put it on a stick, and offered it to Yahshua to drink. The rest said, "Now leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah shall come and save him." And when Yahshua had cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit. At the moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from the top to the bottom. The earth shook and the rock split. That's my focus verse. The tabernacle was separated from the people by a fence. So you had the camp, which were Yahweh's people, but the tabernacle had a fence around it that separated it from the people. And it only had one entrance, the one gate. And the courtyard was separated from the holy and the most holy place by a tent. You know, it wasn't open, it was tented. And the holy place was separated from the most holy place by a veil, which was a thick curtain. So you had all this, as the people could come in to the courtyard, they couldn't see beyond the tent. And the priests that could go into the tabernacle couldn't see beyond the veil because, into the most holy place because of the veil. And then even on that day that the high priest was allowed to go in beyond the veil, he was the only one there. He was the only one who could see and had the privilege of, taking note of what was beyond the veil. And so one of the things that strike me when we look at Yahshua's death, and people will teach and preach, and of course we kind of focus on the resurrection, but it's a whole package deal. Without resurrection, truly, we don't have a Savior. But it's about the death, what happened at the cross and what transpired, what he conquered. It isn't just conquering death. In Colossians, he talks about how he made an open show of the powers and of the air and the principalities, how he was victorious in that spiritual realm from his death on the cross. But I want you to see what immediately happened when he died. Immediately, the veil was rent. That we did not have access to. The veil was rent, and we began to have access to. Now, we don't know it. We don't got the picture. At the moment he died, Yahweh rent the veil from top to bottom. Now, in our tabernacle studies, we tried to imagine the priest and their duties, because it was like, you're not supposed to look past this thing, like panicking, like, oh, what are we going to do, But spiritually significant, the place that we would never have access to, the place that the people of Yahweh, remember, we're not dealing with outside the camp. We're dealing with the camp, the people of Yahweh who could go as close as the courtyard. They couldn't even go into the holy place. And those that could go into the holy place, not all of them were permitted to go into the most holy place. And they could get into the holy place and ponder when or if they would ever be able to see what was beyond the veil. What's beyond the veil? We have time where we think about, the beyond the veil. There's this, we know the ark is there. And because we're far removed, but I want us to be at the veil, beyond the veil, when the presence of Yahweh dwelled there. And when, my granddaughter sees my picture of the tabernacle and she wants to know, why do I have a picture of fire? Because it's the fire going up from the center, from the most holy place. When the presence of Yahweh himself was there, not when he's gone, beyond the veil when the presence of Yahweh is there. Now, if the tabernacle is given to us in this physical realm to know how to worship Yahweh, know this, it is in the heavens. There is a heavenly tabernacle that's structured the same way. So when we look at the natural tabernacle, we say, what is the most holy place, the throne room? We see John entering into the throne room in the 4th chapter. We see through Revelation the incense altar and the table of fellowship. We see these things in the heavenly tabernacle. We see in the writing of Hebrews when he talks about Yahshua as the high priest going into the most holy place, not this natural one, but the one in heaven. So there's a heavenly sanctuary tabernacle where Yahweh dwells. And he gave us in the physical this thing that we read about, the directions we get for how it's made in Exodus. And we see it, as the children of Israel went through the wilderness. And we see David desiring to put that tabernacle in a physical stone structure, move it from a tent and put it in a stone structure. But he had to keep it intact. He had to keep the dimensions and everything exactly the same when Solomon builds it. Yes, he's grand. The courtyard's grand. But the tabernacle has to be to the specifications that Yahweh set. We didn't have access. It was something we couldn't even imagine. David talks about one thing that he has desire of, that he could dwell. He himself, the man after Yahweh's own heart, could not go there. He could not go there. But he had desire to go there and dwell there forever. This is a place to be, right? And before Yahweh. This is the place to be. And so the one time I'm looking at the tabernacle and I'm seeing that it's a place that people come and go. The camp is where you stayed. You could go to the tabernacle when you had need. And you only were allowed to go so far. But I want to ask you, where are you? See, because now it's a tabernacle not made with hands. And now you don't have to live outside of it. See, and most of us are encamped around the tabernacle. Some people are encamped in the courtyard. Some like the holy place. We have a call to come. We have a call to come. Revelation said, and the bride and the Spirit and the bride say, come. And we always stop at repentance for this. But this is not what Yahweh's talking about. The call to come keeps coming to us. It keeps coming to us. It comes to us from when we're out in sin. Come unto me, all ye who labor and are heavy laden. But the call keeps coming to me. Draw closer to me. Come closer to me. And every time I find a place and I settle, I will then hear again, come. Come closer to me. Until we get to the place where we can see Yahweh face to face. And of course, I got my songs. For this morning's rising, new mercies given, I thank you. For every miracle manifested, great or small, I praise you. Yet there is one thing my heart desires, is to worship you each day without fail. This is my earnest prayer. This is my earnest plea. Bid me, come ye beyond the veil. For every door now opened, every pathway cleared, I thank you. For every one of my needs you've already supplied, I praise you. Yet there is one thing my soul longs for, is to worship you face to face. This is my earnest prayer. This is my earnest plea. Bid me to come beyond the veil. Beyond the veil is where I witness all your glory. Seated on your throne in majesty and power, I lay prostrate before you, O my King. In this place of sweet communion, this is my earnest prayer. This is my earnest plea. Bid me come ye beyond the veil. I have entered your gates with thanksgiving. I have entered your courts with praise. Yet I hear you say, come closer, step into this holy place. And because the blood of Yahshua for me, it continues to prevail. Now I'm standing in your presence, face to face, beyond the veil. Yahweh has beckoned to us. It's not a place that's inhibited to us anymore. Hebrews chapter 4. In this chapter, the writer is talking about entering into a rest. Saying the children of Israel didn't get to enter into their rest because of disobedience. And so he's saying, but there's still a rest that remains. We're being still called into a rest. So I'm going to start at verse 11 and says, let us therefore make every effort to enter that rest, so that no one will fall by following their example of disobedience, talking about Israel. Don't let anybody fall because of their example of disobedience. For the word of Elohim is living and active, sharper than any double-edged sword. It penetrates even to dividing soul and spirit, joint and marrow. It judges the thoughts and attitudes of the heart. Nothing in all creation is hidden from Elohim's sight. Everything is uncovered and laid bare before the eyes of him who we must give an account. Therefore, so because of all of this, since we have a great high priest who has gone through the heavens, Yahshua, the son of Elohim, let us hold firmly to the faith we profess. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet was without sin. Therefore, then, let us approach the throne of grace with confidence, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. The writer's talking about the tabernacle. He's talking about the tabernacle and that we have access to the most holy place at this time. And we can come boldly, as King James says, unto the throne of grace. It's not a hidden place from us. It's not a secret place. It's been exposed by Yahweh himself to all of us. It's a place that he beckons us to come. It's a place of worship that, too few have experienced. But Yahweh is calling us. He's calling us to come. Those that are in the world, he's calling to come, become a part of the encampment. He's calling those that are in the encampment to come into his courtyard. He's calling those in the courtyard to come into the holy place. So you can't just go from outside to the holy place. That'd be a big leap. You got to progress. And he's calling those that are in the holy place to come into the most holy place. So I ask you, where are you? Where are you? Because the only people that don't have nowhere to go is those in the most holy place. As much as I like to be there, I'm not. Yahweh's calling us. Come closer. Come closer. I have things for you. I can't even imagine. We like to take time and imagine the face-to-face. And that face-to-face in the throne room and beyond the veil is not the face-to-face that we'll see, when we can see him in all of his glory. But it's a glory experience that we can't even imagine that he is given to us to experience now while we can, here in this life. To be in a presence of him that's so, nothing can compare to it. You would have no problem selling all you have to be in that presence. A satisfaction that goes beyond anything that could satisfy you. A peace that passes all understanding. You can't fathom. Even, when we came up here, I was thinking, I am so encouraged in Yahweh. And of course, when you get encouraged in Yahweh, the devil's right there, bringing stuff to but when you're encouraged in Yahweh and the devil is putting stuff in front of your face, you'd be like, yeah, but Yahweh got that. You just are encouraged in Yahweh. You got this, you're so convinced at the moment, that's the sad thing, that yes, Yahweh can do anything and I can do anything in him and we can just go and do this thing and everything's wonderful. It's again when you get to allow yourself to be distracted. But note, when you're on your way into the most holy place, there's nothing else to see. There's nothing else to see. It's a secret place in the sense it's a secret place from the world. It was covered, and only those selected could go into it. So the world can't come in and see it. They're not going to understand it. They're not going to. But as we get closer and closer and closer, and then we get to that place, we don't want to leave. And you know what? You don't have to. You don't have to. You don't have to. I'm going to close with some other lyrics. Y'all probably know this song. Welcome to the throne room. Welcome to the place where it all got started. Bow down in his presence and worship him. Welcome to the throne room. See, this is what Yahweh says when you get there. Because when you get there, it isn't like, how'd you get here? There's only one way to get there. When you get there, you're welcomed. You did what it needed to be done to get there. There is a no, who are you and what do you think you're doing here? You're welcomed. Welcome to the throne room beyond the veil. Only those who know and love him come boldly unto his throne. Welcome to the throne room. Welcome to the place where he shows his face. Oh, worship in spirit and in truth. Welcome to the throne room. Welcome to the place where it all got started. And we cry, holy, 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 holy. Cry out, holy, holy, holy. Yahweh Elohim Almighty, which was and is to come. Welcome to the throne room.